Eye in the Sky, 2015. This is another film I first saw in the cinema in 2016, it turns out. April 2016. It was released in the UK, 15th of April. So, it was Brexit year, the run-up to the referendum, and everything had a certain mood, and some of that comes across in this film. But I guess it's been like this for years before and years since, just the whole situation, the tension between the West and the Middle East and places like the Horn of Africa. I mean, that has been going on for a long time, but I'm sort of I'm trying not, as I've done with all these revisited films, I'm trying not to look at my review from that time because I may do second reviews at a later stage on my second channel, Cali Seconds, but I will give my opinion on what it is now, and then it might be interesting to compare um, if there's any differences. Um, Firstly, though, I saw the film last night, and today, as a refresher, I decided to see the trailer. And when I went onto YouTube, first thing that came up was actually the Alan Parsons project, "Eye in the Sky." That's a 1982 song, awesome song, absolutely. Wow, really emotive. And I'm reminded of when I last really thought a lot about this song, which was in 2017, when the great American eclipse was approaching Salem in Oregon, where I was. The only time I've seen a total solar eclipse. And on the radio, there were eclipse themed tunes, and that radio station decided this was, I suppose, Eye in the Sky, just sort of makes sense. But I feel a bit about the lyrics. I can read your mind. It feels oppressive, omnipotent. It's a beautiful song, though, and it deserves a review of its own rather than me heading too far down that tangent. But going back to this film and the more literal Eye in the Sky, I mean, I don't know if Alan Parsons, Alan Partridge, Alan Parsons' song was about God or something, Eye in the Sky. I mean, that's what it feels like it could have been from 1982, unless we're imagining drones. But of course, in 2015, 2016, drones were definitely a thing, military drones, and eyes in the sky, even small, very small technology. I mean, there's this beetle type, there's a hummingbird type camera. There's a beetle that can fly into rooms and observe events. You have to watch it if you see a fly. You have to make sure your windows are closed if you're worried about being spied upon these days. But this film, of course, is about. It stars Helen Mirren, and she's great. But it starts off with she's in her. She wakes up in her home in Surrey. And she goes to now where's this headquarters? It's sort of um, a London listening point. What's it called? Northwood, I think. It's in Northwood, and it's like probably the UK equivalent of Langley, Virginia, which often comes up in films. The CIA. So whatever happens in the UK, which is not as known. I mean, sure, okay, there's MI6 on the South Bank, Vauxhall Bridge, the south side. Well, actually, it's the east side. I'm going to digress again, just the way the river faces at that point. But this place in this film is Northwood, where the intelligence is underway, and there's several connections. So there's a UK command that is Helen Mirren's character, sort of Secret Services type role. There's military people. There's Alan Rickman. I think it could have been his very last film. I mean, it actually says in the end credits, "Rest in peace" to him because he died in early 2016 before this film was released in the UK. And and so that's pretty poignant seeing him on screen. I've seen him in many films. I'm thinking back to Love Actually, things like that, where he's not exactly very kind to Emma Thompson's character. But uh, in this film, he's like a military in command person. I don't know, colonel, perhaps Helen Mirren's colonel, I think. There's the US side, which is part of it in Las Vegas, where there are a couple of fairly new military recruits. I mean, one's played by Aaron Paul, and he's been, from the conversation, he's been just working in role 6 months. And then there's a brand new young woman who has flown in to Nevada that day, so out to that desert, to this place where they're operating the drones, the military vehicles, the unstaffed vehicles that, no people in the um, aircraft, that fly high enough that they're practically invisible, but they've got, obviously got the technology to fire weapons, Hellfire, the name of the weapons in this, that can take out a building at a stroke. I mean, it takes 50 seconds, but once the building is struck, word betide anyone within, they're completely destroyed. And so for the whole logistics, they map out the damage that will be caused to the area. So, you know, 20-meter ring, 40-meter ring, 60-meter ring, and the likelihood of death, the likelihood of serious injury at particular strike points. And these are all probabilities. But all this technology, they measure it all, and it all has to be recorded and agreed before. It's sort of like a risk assessment, or um, well, like an environmental impact statement, things like that. I'm aware of that from courses I've done, but I imagine it's similar in a way in the military, probably a lot more sophisticated, but I only understand it to the level that I learnt it at postgrad. And it was, yeah, sort of, you work out what the impact of any particular decision is before the decision is taken, and it's all on record. It all goes down a chain of command. There's protocol lists that need following before the actual strike can be taken. So it's the problem is in Kenya and Somalia, the Horn of Africa area. There's a threat from a terrorist group. I'm not going to say the name of the terrorist group on here. I don't really want the algorithms to pick up on stuff like that. But I mean, I said the word terrorism, so I'm reviewing a film, so um, it's high stakes. There's multiple locations, so we've got the geography in the UK, in the USA, in Singapore as well, because there's a sort of arms fair going on there, and there's ministers, UK ministers, at this arms fair. And then there's the Horn of Africa, Somalia, Kenya border, sort of where this particular um, insurgent group are. They've taken over some areas, and surveillance is really good because they've got some locals on the case as well. They film from all sorts of heights. They've got their high satellite imagery, and I guess it's good weather. You can maybe they can look through clouds. I don't know, but they can see exactly what's going on. And the Aaron Paul's character is spots a young teenage girl who's skipping in the yard, and both him and the woman who's with, when they sort of zoom in to check what this strange movement is, and they see this teenager just skipping happily using a hula hoop, that sort of thing, not skipping, more uh, uh, gyrating with the hula hoop. And it's sweet, and they're smiling along, beaming, thinking, "Oh, isn't that yeah, nice moment." After then, they have to get back to the serious thing of right monitoring. Oh my gosh, there's these people who are up to something awful, and they've got explosives, and they're tracking down this American, a US citizen who's joined that particular group, um, and so she's become like one of those. I guess she's um, not very. Oh gosh, she is now as much of a threat as far as the Americans and UK people are concerned, although there's a reticence by the UK government in this particular case to actually take out anyone unless they want to capture the uh, the people in question and bring them to trial. And um, so the ministers, the politicians as a whole, they're firm. They come across a bit like old school Labour. I thought maybe not like the current Labour government, but maybe the 1970 to 2010 Labour government, in that I can imagine a few people from that, given the ethical foreign policy, might argue, right, we're not going to do, we want to capture them and bring them to trial and do this all fairly and keep them alive and stick them in Belmarsh afterwards or something. But the Americans disagree. They want to just take them out, fully. And I mean, this is summarising very broadly because I don't want to go into a great deal of detail, but they more or less express their disappointment that if the Brits let this opportunity go, it will be noted very badly, taken very badly. And of course, this is it's 10 years ago when um, the dynamic between the US and the UK was very different from how it is today. So there's all the rules of engagement. There's the political tussle between um, UK military, UK ministers, other politicians, and the US military, and it they have to work it all out. They have to agree, and they're not agreeing. And some of them want to. I mean, one major fly in the ointment is this young teenager because her parents, I mean, they gosh, her parents, they're quite sweet, as in they care about her, it seems like. They let her play. So it shows, how difficult it is, given we're hearing a lot about it's heartbreaking, the whole story this week from the Taliban, the whole situation, not just the Taliban, but the whole situation with Afghanistan and the evacuation and the cover up. And obviously, I don't want to go into that tangent either. But that's another level of heartbreak. That the fact is, there's hardliners, in the very tough people in uh, the people who want to run the government, military government, more or less, as a militia, I guess, as a caliphate, and destroy, uh, um, but not just destroy, I mean, actually, really harshly uh, clamp down on people because, like, the father meets a businessman, I think, but from this hardliner group who is upset because the daughter is gyrating and skipping and no care in the world. She's playing. She's 12, 13 years old, maybe even younger. And this man tells her father knows on certain terms that's unacceptable. And so he tells her off a bit and says, yeah, sure, it's okay to play, but not when anyone's about, not when this, chap's okay. Oh my gosh, you know, I really felt for that family. Don't want to cry. But this is where, gosh, doing live streams is difficult. Um, Humanity is humanity. When you see people just living their lives, sorry, living their lives ordinarily as they want, and they're under threat from two different camps in a way, because they're under threat from unknowingly from having a home that's very close to these potential drone strikes on one side, and then this insurgent group on the other who look on them unfavorably because they're too westernized. They're caught between two stools. They're stuck. I know I really felt for them. And it's heartbreaking at that level, but it's more heartbreaking when you realize that the mother sends out this daughter to sell bread. That's what to carry on living. And this puts even more close to where some deal was going on where there's people with these vests and explosives and all that sort of awful stuff. And it's where this sort of high stakes stuff is going to go. And you think, right, so that's the hold up because um, the UK ministers are actually operating an ethical policy and they don't want to kill innocent people like this. And these are the people who say, but think of it in numbers, think of it in utilitarian terms. Like we've got to save all the people who might die in a shopping centre if it gets blown up by people. So one teenager or one family. Oh gosh. There's another element as well, which is like one of the locals is operating this sort of little beetle drone camera that's effectively spying on the meeting. He's at risk. I mean, at one point, he is asked to buy the bread off the girl so that the mission can carry on, and he puts himself in so much danger as well. I mean, I love all those sort of films like Hurt Lock and stuff like that, where people put themselves in danger and you think, wow, the enormity of it. But this young chap, he's a local Somalian, and yet he's working for the West. And if he gets caught, what will they do with him? So there's all that. So this is where it's such a brilliant, powerful film, I thought. I mean, how realistic it is. I mean, I think I took it pretty realistic back in 2016. How I feel about it now, I think it might be a bit different, but I don't know. I mean, we've got very different circumstances now. It's situations more in Israel and Gaza, and oh gosh, I mean, there's a lot of other tangents I could go down, and I'm not going to. But um, the empathetic side, the compassion side, the need for humanity, that comes across. The whole situation with this bread, with markets, with earning a crust, so to speak. Um, the um, oh blimey, I gather this was all filmed in somewhere like, or largely filmed in places like Cape Town, but with some connections to Somalia, because I'm looking down the um, credits. But effectively, there's this tussle between these groups, and it has to be resolved. And obviously, I won't say much more because you want to enjoy the film. I think it's great how realistic it is. I mean, it might be, as I say, more realistic from that particular time to take it as 10 years ago rather than now. But um, um, maybe the technology's got even more advanced since then as well, and who knows? Um, but I would score this 8.75. It's a really gripping film, considering, I mean, all those like moments, there are chases through the market because of people after the people because of, things that happen. But oh, yeah, it's a terrific film, I think. Great acting from all the people. The young woman, the soldier, drone operator in Nevada with um, Aaron Paul's character. She's great as well. I mean, I could see they had bits of empathy. Um, I mean, to sort of tussle with that sort of job. I just couldn't do a job like that. That's for certain. I think there's so many jobs because being involved with doing things that might actually harm another human being, even if it is uh, for the greater good. I mean, deciding on that, the decisions by the ministers, I don't know. It's just really difficult, um, but very thought provoking. I'd love to know what you think about this film. Please let me know. Um, please like if you like this review. As I say, I might do some song reviews at some point as well. Maybe, I don't know. I'll get to that. Watch this space. Um, please subscribe, or thanks if you consider subscribing. Thanks if you do already subscribe. Please hit the notification button. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Bye for now.